In any event, welcome to our first virtual Teen Table Talk. Our host today will be AK, who is in the, I'm not sure how your screen is set up, but Aisha Kirkland and Brother Derek Muhammad. Um, so this is our first virtual Teen Table Talk. So thank you guys for giving us an hour or so of your time. Towards the end, we will be holding a brief trivia, which will be hosted by Oshi, and we will be giving away a free Amazon gift card, just as a thank you and incentive for your participation. So AK and Brother Derek, I'll let you all introduce yourselves and take it away.
All right, you go first, AK.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is AK. That's a stage name, but officially Aisha Kirkland. And for anything, just to introduce myself, I would say that I am a rapper, poet, do activism, and now even I'm a founder of this program called Youth for Christ 305. And basically what we plan on doing is just uplifting the youth in our generation, stirring up the gifts that's on the inside of them and things of that nature. So it's a pleasure to be here with you guys today as we talk about what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, my name is Brother Derek Muhammad. I'm here to co-host today's discussion. I am a Houston-based activist, freedom fighter, and it's always an honor and a privilege to hear what the youth have to say. They say the way for you to stay young is to surround yourself with youthful energy. So I'm looking forward to getting some of that energy and being motivated and inspired by what you all have to say today. So again, it's an honor to be here. And you can just call me Brother Derek. All right, so I guess you can kick it off, AK.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about issues during the pandemic, issues with COVID. And I want to kind of start the discussion with the first time COVID got serious for us right here in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. Now, although the first case of COVID was found about a year ago in November in Wuhan, China, as we all know, we weren't really seriously thinking about COVID here in Miami-Dade until about March. And I know for anybody who remembers, I remember sitting in my classroom getting a paper, from our superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, saying, there's COVID, we're going to work on it. This is all you need to do. Just wash your hands. And if you travel out of the country, you have to quarantine for 14 days. So, reading that paper on a Monday in a classroom, you'll think to yourself, okay, this is not going to be that bad. But then on the Friday of that same week, you find out that when they said we're going off to spring break, don't worry, you don't have to come back. Schools are closed until further notice. So, this is not going to be a one-sided thing. The first question I want to ask is, how did you feel the day you got that notice that, don't return back to school? Did you get this feeling like, okay, it's bigger than I thought it was? And, the floor is open for anybody who wants to make any comments.
So I know the first time I heard about the pandemic, it was kind of like, I thought of it as something that was kind of far away. I remember talking to my friends during school about the pandemic in China. I was kind of just talking about it as though it didn't involve me. But then as we got that first letter, I kind of thought, oh, it'll pass. But after the first 3 weeks in quarantine, I was like, I don't have faith in these people. I think we're gonna be here till October, and we're November, still happening. I'm like, and now I'm thinking it'll probably happen till next year. But it did exceed my expectations.
All right, so basically what my thought process was, when we got the paper, oh, we're just gonna go on spring break for this this 2 weeks, since we got an extra week due to COVID. But after, as the person before me said, after a few weeks had passed and we weren't coming back to school, each time after that, I started losing faith and losing hope that we would get back to school. And it was evident that we weren't going as things continued to decrease and get worse. Jobs and occupations and businesses, they all started closing and stuff like that. So it's just like, as time passed, I realized the severity of this virus.
And as we talk about what was happening, you know, both of you mentioned, okay, a couple weeks into quarantine. All right, let's open up the quarantine. And the reason why we're going to talk about this is because I know, like, my mom was working. She was working in hospitals, and when she came home, she was drained, went to bed, and even so much things were happening in some households. You have some parents, you know, losing jobs and things of that nature. So it's not that our parents didn't care per se, but a lot of was going on, right? So it's not like we had a place where we could go vent and say, this is how we felt about this, and this is how we felt about that. And that's why we have this space today where you could let go some of whatever you felt during the quarantine, your thoughts, how certain situations made you feel. So how did the quarantine feel for you? And I want to take it a little past March. March, we were like, all right. April, we were like, all right. But then when the fourth quarter of school was completely at home, what were some of the things you faced that you did not like about the quarantine? Or you could even talk about the things you did like, but just elaborate a little bit for us.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Quick. Hey.
Hey, Kay. Hey, everybody. Well, for me, it was kind of boring, but at the same time, with dealing with my music and everything, I was kind of getting like caught up with a lot of things, like practicing more for shows, recording more, basically perfecting my craft. But and dealing with school and me being in the 11th grade now, I started looking up colleges and stuff like that. But other than that, it was boring. But I just know it was for the better. So.
Definitely. Look, more time. So she had now had more time to perfect her craft. She had more time to look up things for school. Can we say that quarantine was needed time to do some self-reflection? You know, definitely staying home all day. I had to think about, okay, this is who I am and things of that nature. So yeah, definitely 100%. Staying at home, we had to be a lot with our families. And I don't know about you guys, but I learned that being at home with my family all day, it's like, oh, okay, this is how things work. You know, when you're at school all day and they're at work, you know, there's not a lot of room to get on each other's nerves or any of that. But one of the things that happened for me with my family is, I wouldn't say division, because, you know, families, they have arguments, they get back. But it was like more bumping heads. Did anybody have any experiences with that they want to talk about, or any other challenge they faced?
I faced the challenge dealing with my teachers. Dealing with my teachers and turning in work. It's like they want you to turn in work on this website and then turn in work on another website. It was crazy.
She ain't never lie. Like, the work that these people had, like the teachers had gave, not only did they give them on so many different websites, but they gave so much at a certain time, expecting it to be completed. And although we were at home, there were still other responsibilities that I myself had to take care of. And it's just like, with the workload that they were giving, it was not only adding stress to but it was just adding more of so much responsibility that I wasn't used to, since this is all a new time for us. We haven't really experienced this. I haven't experienced something like this in my lifetime. So taking on such big tasks and responsibilities at a rush, at the rush that we did receive it at, it was kind of difficult. But now that we've gotten like used to it for a few months, I think we've all gotten better at handling everything that we've been like basically going through.
All right. Let's stay with that school thing for a minute. So I remember before the quarantine started, one of the things they did was they gave us this white paper with all these different platforms: Google Classroom, Edmodo. This is how you're gonna contact your teacher. And what was the most stressful part when it comes to, was it the number of assignments? Was it the different platforms? Was it both? Because I know one of the things that they tried to implement for the 49 weeks, the school board, was you could turn in work past the deadline, right? Past the due date, and the teacher shouldn't penalize you, shouldn't give you a lower grade or any of that. Was that protocol helpful, or did it not make a difference with the ability to turn in late work at any time for the teachers to grade, etc.? And do you all find that there is more classwork now or before the pandemic?
And it's basically like dealing with time management. At first, the teachers, they was just like giving us the work. We didn't have like what we have now. go to first period, then go to second period.
Yeah.
Like, it's like the teachers just give you the work and just do it.
How many of you guys went back to physical school? If you went back to physical school, just raise your hand on Zoom so I can do like a quick poll real quick. Or is everybody virtual? All right, we got 1, 2. Jay, I know you went back to school. All right, okay. So, from the transition from online school to in-person school, how was that? And even so much the physical school now, talk about that, because I know that you guys are in school, but you're still on computers. So how is that working out? How does that feel?
So I went back to school for about a month. And I guess that transition from like my spring semester up until August, it kind of felt the same, but I also had this anticipation that I would be moved fully virtually. So I guess it was just like kind of waiting on it to go virtual again. But as far as, you know, being in front of screens, I feel like that's just something that I'm used to now, since all of the institutions I've been in have sort of like gravitated to that over time, considering, you know, technology is just advancing as the days go on. So, but I mean, I guess as far as now, I get quote unquote like Zoom exhaustion, like being tired from sitting in front of a screen all day. And it gets to the point where I don't even want to be on social media because I'm just like tired of looking and being in front of screens.
The thing with me is the reason why I went back to physical school is because of the learning, like the way that I learned. I'm not the type of person to learn fully virtual. It hasn't been working since since quarantine had hit, and since we started doing things virtually. From the start of that, my grades started to decline, and I had to make the conscious decision to go back to school because that would be better for me. Honestly, with the transition, it was okay. I'm still coping with it and I'm still doing good with it. So honestly, since I made that decision, my grades have improved, but I just like that transition was needed or necessary for my learning. Because if I would have stayed online, I believe that I would continue to decline in my grades. And since I just started high school, that would be a horrible way to start my high school like experience if I'm trying to like be up there in my 12th grade year, if that makes sense.
If I could just ask you one more question, what about online do you think caused the decline for you?
The thing that online, the main thing that caused the decline was the way that teachers taught online. Like as we mentioned earlier, all they would do is give us the work, expect us to do it, and online I'm not really learning. All you're doing is just giving me an assignment. And I seen a whole bunch of posts on social media when it hit quarantine and when we started virtual school, all school was turning in assignments at 11:59 and calling it a day. Like it really wasn't actually learning or gaining information. And like I feel like if they would have made us or forced us to take the exams or the EOCs and tests at the end of the year, you would have a lot of people who would receive like lower scores this year just for the sole purpose that we weren't learning, or at least I wasn't learning. And I know a few others who weren't, but it was a good amount of students who say they weren't learning with online school.
May I ask a question real quick, AK?
Definitely.
Yes. Question, being at home, quarantined, not being able to go to school, obviously, those of you who might go to parties, a lot of that was shut down. No mall, no skating rink, no. Like, how has the pandemic impacted y'all's social life? And how did you cope with it? How are you all coping with it? Is there frustration within your peer groups? Like, how do you cope with this new way of doing things as far as socially?
I feel like in our age group, we use social media a lot and we contact each other through social media a lot. I think before the pandemic, we text each other a lot, like out of a group chat with like my group of friends, and we used to house party and just text each other every day. But since the pandemic started, in the beginning, we we used to house party and like video call every single day. We would stay on call for hours and we wouldn't talk the whole entire time, but it was like we would just keep each other company, like silent company. Like we'd be doing homework together, or we'd be playing games together. And then sometimes like we just stay up and do homework. We wouldn't say anything. We just like see each other on our screens. It was kind of like, I guess, comforting each other so we couldn't be there for each other during the pandemic.
Did you feel like you missed your friends though? Did you feel like you missed seeing them in person?
I don't know if I missed, maybe a little, but I think because I talked to them every single day and I didn't feel like I was missing their personality, but it was more like missing like being in their presence, I guess.
Got it. Oh no, I was just asking if anyone else wanted to address that question, like how the pandemic has affected you all's social life, like what it's been like.
I'm sorry, I talk a lot, but basically the pandemic, I would say my social life has kind of, well, definitely declined in a way, but as like I came to the end of but my social life did decline in the beginning because I've realized like quarantine, I guess, kind of in a way helped me to realize some of the practices that I've done, like some of the things that I've been practicing, some of the friend groups that I had were very toxic. They weren't good for me. So it's just like as quarantine came, I realized it was truly needed for my life so I can make the changes that I did, like that were necessary. So quarantine, it did decrease my social life, but coming to the end of it now, I was able to find true friends and true people who like were supporting me, building me up, and being who they should be as friends.
Okay, can I ask a question tailgating on what Brother Derek said to the younger people, the students? I think Andre was saying that it worked better for him to be in class with the teacher, but for those that primarily did the virtual learning, do the young people find that it takes a certain amount of discipline in order to be a good virtual student versus a student in class? What is their take on that?
I'll hop in really quickly. I forgot to leave out when I started talking. I'm currently in college. But as far as the discipline goes, I guess that depends on if you have asynchronous or synchronous classes. So asynchronous is when your teacher just gives you a scheduled time to go to your classes or like rewatch the class meetings. Synchronous is where everybody meets at a specific time. So I think there is a level of discipline you need to have asynchronous classes because you can find yourself getting easily behind. And then, you know, when it's time for the exam, you find yourself playing catch up. But I'm not sure if anybody else has experienced that.
I also have I have all asynchronous classes. And like Oshi said, in the first few like weeks of me having asynchronous classes, I was planning out a schedule and I was finishing work on time. But as time progressed, I like, especially now, I'm getting more burned out because it's just tiring to do all this because they give so much work now. So they think because you're at home you have more time, but they forget that you have other classes. It's like the same amount of work. When we were in school, but they think because we're at home we have more time, which you really don't. So there's a lot more work, and I find myself being burned out. As I'm being burned out, I'm procrastinating more, and I'm moving like things back in the schedule or like forward, I guess, however you think. But like instead of doing work on Monday, I'll be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. And it just piles up. And then I have like now, I'm procrastinating now, and I have an exam Tuesday, and I still haven't finished my work for that class. So I have to hurry up and finish that. And it's just, it does require discipline, but I think if you really stick to it, like you're gonna be fine. But I'm a procrastinator, so it's kind of hard for me.
Mm-hmm. I felt the procrastination. I did, because even now I find myself like, Aisha, you know you got this work to do, and you keep letting it pile up. And I agree. I'm at home, and I really needed that discipline thing, especially because I'm on Zoom here, but I'm looking at my bed right there, and a part of me is like, I don't know if I should go to this next period when I can just, take this nap. So for me, I've definitely needed to say, okay, because I know if I was in the schoolhouse, I can't just fall asleep where I'm at. I have teachers that's going to tap on my desk and say, wake up, and things like that. So it's definitely that missing that person that's on you to keep you productive. And I had to develop that myself over quarantine. So let's just to keep going with the social thing. Now we have places opening back up, right? How do you feel? Do you want to go back out? Do you want to stay home? How do you feel about this mask, this irritating mask that, you walk out, you forget the mask wherever you were, you got to go all the way back to your car, put on the mask. How do you guys feel about places being open now?
Queen K, that's a question for you because you out there and you want to perform and do shows. How concerning is that for you that they opening everything back up?
Well, right now, if the case is going back up, I don't think they should be opening back anything. Even though that I really do want to start back doing shows, but it got to be safety first before we start getting back into it.
Definitely. I know even so much with the performance aspect of it, buildings that we go to. A part of me kind of feels like I didn't properly quarantine because, I left my house to do like the podcasts and things like that. But I will say this, that when it comes to, going out and things like that, do you feel like the measures that they have in place are enough? 6 feet apart, wear the mask, even so much. You go to a grocery store, you're like, okay, how well are we doing this 6 feet apart? You go to a Walmart, you don't see any social distancing or any of that. You go to a restaurant and you're like, okay, you want me to wear the mask until I take a seat, but once I get here, take the mask off and eat and things like that. So do you guys feel safe if I were to put that into perspective?
I don't think it's enough social distancing, like going inside a grocery store or anything, because people could still be up on you. People still be coughing and not covering their mouth, even though that they have on a mask. But it's not very sure that the mask will help you, like, with the virus. I mean, yes, it's a plus, but it's not for sure that it's like a safety precaution.
I think like a big problem is like in public people are following the precautions, but when you go into private, like people are throwing parties, they're inviting friends over, they're having these big meetings where they're not wearing masks because no one's telling them to. But like if you go in public, they feel the pressure to wear a mask. I think the reason that the cases are going up, even though we have these measures in place, is just people aren't listening in private. They're doing whatever they want in private because no one's there to shame them or to tell them not to do it. So I don't even know what we could do for that, because at that point you can't really, they're not in public. They can't really get in trouble for doing things in private. It's more of people being conscious of their people around them and caring for others around them and wanting to keep people safe.
Yeah, AK, and that's not just with the youth, that's with adults as well. One of my former teachers passed away recently, and so I attended her funeral. The only reason I went to the funeral because she was that close to me, and I had to go and give a testimony for what she did for me, not to me. So I had to go. Other than that, I probably wouldn't have gone. But we're in the church, everybody's social distancing, everybody has on masks, but when you walk in, you see people hugging. And I'm thinking just that people are such creatures of habit, and you're at a place where folks are mourning. It's easy to just kind of let your guard down, I guess. So it's a problem. I agree with the other sister. You got on the mask, and you're doing all of the things that are required of you by state law or city law to move about in the public. But then when you get in those intimate settings, it's easy to just forget all of that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you thought about like some of this coronavirus stuff. It could be very political too. That's how I feel, because like even though that it's a lot of cases and stuff going up, people could just be like sick with the flu or stomach virus, and then they go get tested and they automatically saying that it's positive for the coronavirus. That's why I feel like some of these cases, it's not really true that it is the coronavirus. It could be real. Never know.
Good point.
I'm happy you, because a part of me was thinking, I don't know, I want to be very careful with my words. I don't know how close COVID was around you guys, because I know some people, they have family members that passed away, and then if you, like me, on the more fortunate side, I have yet to run into anybody in close proximity of me that had a COVID case, you know, and we hear, especially in Miami-Dade County here, we're one of the highest places of COVID, but it's kind of hard for a person, especially at our age, if we could be realistic, for us to take it seriously when it's not knocking on our Pacific door. So my question I was going to ask, and for everyone with their different perspectives, how serious do you feel about this virus based on, you know, what you've seen, what's happened around you, etc.?
Well, personally, I didn't take it that serious at the start because, like, no one really close to me got hit. I started seeing how he was feeling, and he takes care of himself. He's super healthy, but he was getting scared too. Like, he didn't tell me, but he was getting scared, and that's when I was like, oh, this is really serious. And
anybody else want to pick up on that question where she left off at? But I know we might have had difficulty hearing her, but one of the things I heard her say was because no one in her family had it at first, she didn't take it as seriously, but then her dad started picking up symptoms, so she got a little scared. Her father got scared, and they started taking it more seriously. Anybody else want to elaborate on the seriousness of the virus that they felt?
I feel like with some people, you can't truly get them to act serious or be serious unless they experience it themselves. You know, some people, like, they're people of experience. They won't take something for its word. They won't take something for what they see it, but they'll take it when they actually see it for themselves. And I feel like also going back to what Mr. Derek said earlier, since we're so stuck in this habit of being in close proximity and like hugging up on each other, it's just like, since we're so used to doing that, we aren't really used to that transition that we had to make. And I feel like that's something, or part of the problems that we've been having, not only in school, but with this virus. It's the transition period. People aren't like not truly transitioning, but the transition is like kind of difficult for some to get used to.
Oh, I'm sorry. To two guests that we have, hi Keisha, hi Gerard. Don't be shy, guys. Join the conversation at any time. Go ahead, Bria. I'm sorry.
I think a lot of people don't take it seriously because they think of it as just like another like flu or another cold. But I think those people who say that they don't know about like the lasting side effects of corona. Like, there are a lot of people who get corona, they have lifelong side effects. Like my friend, she thinks she had corona in the beginning of the year, and afterwards she was sick for like 2 or 3 weeks. She couldn't go to school, and later on she ended up developing asthma. So she now needs to carry on inhaler. She can't exercise that much, and she's an athlete, so that's a problem for her. But there are a lot of side effects, like they have lung problems afterwards. There's even some people who have they have problems with their brain, like they can't speak as easily. They call it COVID brain, but there's like a lot of lasting side effects that people don't think about when they think of COVID. They just think of it, oh, I'll get it and it'll pass. And some people, they can't smell or they can't taste anymore. It's just, people need to think more about, like, even if you do get COVID and you do survive, there's still problems you could probably have lifelong after this whole thing passes.
And you just reminded me of a popular verse, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, that a lot of people are being destroyed based on what they don't know. So who do we blame for the lack of education?
I don't think we can blame the government, for the sole purpose that it's also our job as people to listen. Now, like, it's important. You see, as people have been saying, we as a people in a generation or a nation, we haven't been taking this as seriously. And since we all haven't been doing our part in actively communicating and listening, we weren't able to get the information that we needed to survive or like basically handle what was to come.
Yeah, and let me say, that's not really the fault of young people, because the government itself is still learning what this is. It's brand new. That's why it's called the what did they call it? The novel coronavirus. Novel means new. Like that, and they're still trying to study it to see exactly what it is. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding it. So it was difficult for everybody to handle. I mean, you could be walking down the street and your knee start hurting. You're like, oh my God, I might have corona, or you might just feel a little tired in the middle of the day, because it's in everybody's head. You understand what I'm saying? Every time you turn on the news, it's coronavirus this, coronavirus that. And because they put it at the forefront of our brains that way. We process everything through the filter of coronavirus. So it could be just, you might wake up in the morning and have some flu symptoms. It's going to at least cross your mind. Man, I wonder if I got that Rona. And I think, that's affected everybody psychologically too. And it could be tiring, it could be tiring. But my question is, do you all know anybody in your age group that got it, whether it's a close friend or not?
My school, in my grade, my school is one of the first schools in Miami-Dade County Public Schools to close down a week after reopening because there were cases students self-reported. And even now, my school, I think, has about 3 to 4 quarantine lists of about students in 11th grade who have the virus. And a lot of them, they do a lot of foreign traveling. A lot of them, too, also, they have parties in Key Biscayne. They have these house parties, no masks, no none of that. And as a result, I know a couple of teenagers in my age group who have the virus. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Recently at my school, there had to be students who were quarantined for one person who was involved in some extracurricular activity. And basically they were asymptomatic from what I know. So they thought they were good. They knew they had the disease, but they thought they were good since they weren't experiencing the symptoms. And because of that, they still came to school. And as a result of them coming back to school and the school now knowing that they had the coronavirus, they had to quarantine everybody that was in their classroom schedule.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes. Who's talking though?
Keisha.
Oh, hey, Keisha.
Hey, so yesterday, me and my auntie was having this conversation, and she basically said, like, what if it's a way for God, like, to tell the Christians, the people of the church, to get like to go and spread His words more, instead of, because some people, we just go to church, hear the word, and call it a day, but He wants to actually go out and spread the word to other people. So that really stuck out to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say this, that I think, everyone with their various religions and different religious beliefs all have like a religious point of view to this pandemic. They try to look at it from these different perspectives. So yeah, I mean, I would say, if that activates your faith in such a way to say, okay, I got to pay attention to this, I got to start moving in this direction, and by all means. But I know we're about to I know we're about to in a few more moments we're gonna have a trivia, but just any more last thoughts that anybody wants to share, anything that stressed them out about the pandemic, or anything that they learned during the pandemic, any other direction anybody wants to go in before we hand over.
Yeah, if I could jump in real quick, AK, earlier, I can't think of his name, excuse me, but the young man was talking about how the pandemic gave him time to reflect on who his real friends are. So he found something positive, and to address the sister's comment about, God trying to get our attention. Like, you can find God in anything. You can find good, meaning that's another way of saying you can find good in anything. It's just a matter of, how you look at it. And I think that's what we should be doing. We should be trying to find the opportunity in this adversity, meaning trying to find the positive in all of these negatives. But quick question before we transition. As a grown-up, I wanna ask and get some honest feedback from y'all. Like, grown-ups are under a great amount of pressure. You see people lining up because they don't have food in the house. Like, line 7 miles long. A lot of people lost their jobs. People don't have, just the basic things. There's a lot of stress and frustration among the adults. Do you all believe that the adults in your life, from your teachers to your parents to whomever, have been as sensitive and supportive about how this is affecting y'all? Or you think, I mean, have you think they've been sensitive and supportive about how this affecting y'all, or do you think most grown-ups are just mostly just caught up in what they're going through? I hope the question made sense.
I believe it's a little bit of both, because I know they want to care about others, but your first priority would be caring about yourself as well. So it's 50-50.
I definitely
Yeah.
agree with Queen K, basically, because it's just like everybody's worried about catching the disease or catching the virus, that they're taking the precautions that they need for themselves. And it's just like although we have other, like, we want to worry about everybody else, we also have to make sure we're doing our best to keep ourselves safe. So like I agree with Queen K when she says it's a 50-50 thing, because although they care about us, they also have things that they have to care about. And some of that anger, I've experienced that, some of the anger, frustration that has built up with this, everything that's going on, has probably been thrown out on us. Me personally, it has. But I just had to keep myself, remind myself that this is not only affecting me, this is affecting the whole world. So it's just like, I can't get mad at my parent, at somebody who's frustrated, because at the end of the day, we're all going through this together. This is not something that we're facing alone.
Very mature. That's very mature.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, well, I think we'll go into the final portion of the program. Again, I thank you all for giving us some of your time. So we have a trivia, and we'll turn it over to Oshi for the trivia. You all want to kind of kill some time while she gets this Kahoot?
If everybody's listening, I'll throw another question out there. Name 2 things that you hate about the pandemic, or should I say dislike? You don't have to use the word hate. And then name 2 things that you think has been a plus or a positive, things that you liked or, thought ended up having a positive impact.
2 things I would say that I dislike. I dislike not being around my family as much, because you don't know where other people have been. You just don't know. And the fact that school is closed down.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 things I dislike. But 2 things that I would say that I do like is to work on my time management and perfecting my craft, or perfecting me as a person.
Dope. Anybody else?
I would say definitely. What is it called? 2 things I like was, as Queen K said, perfecting me as a person, like strengthening relationships, cutting the ones that be cut off out, and just being or becoming a better person. And another thing that I liked was the time that I actually got to spend with family at home, because since COVID hit, you see how like jobs were or businesses closed down. They gave me more time to bond with the family that I had inside the house, because usually when the world was, in a sense, quote unquote normal, basically everybody's living such a busy life that everybody's all over the place. Nobody really has the time to talk, bond, actually create that connection. So I feel like that time was needed so we can grow closer as a family. But 2 things I really disliked was the way that things were handled by leadership with COVID-19, the way that things were handled. And another thing that I would say, I guess I dislike, was the fact that we as a people kind of like, I guess, didn't take it as seriously as we should have. But at the end of the day, that's the past. And now that we are moving forward, we should just try our best to do better with handling everything.
Good answer. Anybody else?
So I got everything working, but I did want to hop on that because Andre, you've been saying some really, really profound stuff. For me, like being at home allowed for more bonding time. So just a little bit history in terms of my education. I went to boarding school, so I've been away from home since I was like 13. Then I went off to college, but quarantine allowed me to make up for all that quality time that I missed with my parents. Has everybody who's playing joined?
If you want to play, but you're having problems logging in, go in the chat and let us know. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and start.
All right, so first question, whose legal name is Dominique Armani Jones? All right, so the next question, which rapper entertainer created a contract with Black America? Ice Cube. This one is true or false. Christopher Columbus discovered America.
See everybody later. Thank you for having me.
Bye. The answer is Travis Scott. True or false? Chris Brown has released 11 studio albums in his career. What rapper was recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Yeah, this happened on, I think it was November 9th. I can't remember, but yep, it was Biggie. How many HBCUs are in the US? 75. I would have thought the same thing. True or false? BET is a Black-owned network. So that was kind of a tricky one. BET hasn't been Black-owned since 2001, actually, when Mr. Bob Johnson, he sold it to Viacom. Viacom also owns like Nickelodeon and MTV and VH1. All right, the Black Panther character first appeared in comics. What year was it? Oh, whoever made this put the answer. Well, y'all get a freebie. Okay, what Black man designed the layout for the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.? Majority got that one. All right, two more. Who was the first Black person to win an Oscar for Best Animated short for the film Dear Basketball? Yeah, it was Kobe Bryant.
They should have knew that one.
Last question, true or false? Black Wall Street was a real place in the U.S. So let's see who won. And if y'all want to know, just for your knowledge, it was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Let's see. Okay, Gerard got third. Leah got second.
Who is J9?
Yes, sir. That's me. Stop.
Where? Oh, I gotta go in here.
All right, so email me privately. Just email me.
Chat.
Yeah, in the chat, your email address and your telephone number.
And you will be the recipient of a $50 Amazon gift card today.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our Teen Table Talks. So I guess AK and Brother Derek, you all want to close us out. I mean, I thank you all for, I want to thank you both for giving us your time to host this Teen Table Talk. The first virtual that we've had since the pandemic. And we want to bring more and invite more people. But just to say, we appreciate you both for being our host. Oshi for hosting the trivia, even though somebody put the answer in there, 1966. They got a free question, but If you all want to close out, you want to say anything, yourself?
I say I just want to thank both of y'all, you know, you AK and Brother Derek for just taking y'all time out and everybody on the call and the whole team that's, you know, that's on here. And we look forward to doing some more with y'all.
Yeah, let me say, I'll go first so that AK could close out and have the last word. Let me say it was an honor to be a part of the conversation. Thank you so much for letting me in. Thank you all for your honest and forthright answers to the questions. And I look forward to this being an ongoing dialogue. So again, thank y'all for having me. I learned a lot and I'm inspired.
And again, I would also like to say thank you to T.E.E.S for this opportunity. It was truly a pleasure to be able to be here. And as Andre wrote, I would love to join next time you have this. Let's give you guys the plug right now. On Instagram, follow the page at T.E.E.S.You. T.E.E.S.Y.O.U.T.H. Follow the Instagram page. They'll keep you up to date with all the events that they have, including the next virtual Teen Table Talks. So with that being said, I hope you guys have an extraordinary day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peace.
Bye.